This is my persuasion speech, and I have one audience member. In May of 2020, we came home from a deployment in Central Europe. Within 60 days, 3 people within our brigade passed away from suicide. The brigade had a safety stand down a day after that third one happened, and we had to attend a few briefs and some classes to gain knowledge for resources to help us in a time of need or whenever we were feeling down and feel like we couldn't cope with our stresses. The mental health program in the military needs to change. From a statement from the Brigade General Jack Hammond, he's a retired general, said in a statement to the House Oversight, "When they lose hope for a day without pain or ability to move forward, then they give up and take their lives." When we're going through military training, we're trained to never show weakness, and I think that creates like a huge stigma around not asking people for help or feeling like you can't show your weakness, because everyone definitely goes through hard times in life, and you need to have that outlet of knowing to have resources of where you can go for help and how you can get help. And in the Army, they make that very difficult to find. Close friends like miss warning signs that are around you, like you're always joking around and you have a bad day and you say like, "Oh, I hate my life," or "I like want to kill myself," and like everyone laughs it off, but like then you miss those trigger signs of like where there actually is a problem and when you need to help your friend, and that's where you get confused between that line. The unit needs to be more aware of that and needs to notice that like this soldier has a problem or these soldiers are just joking around and they're having a bad day, and there's a lot of leadership that just doesn't care. They don't want to get the work done, and then they just shoo them off to their room so they don't have to deal with it, and that's a huge issue. In September of 2020, the DoD reported that the active duty suicide rate raised by 41.3% in the past 5 years, and that was a statement put out by Metal News Service. That is a significant amount, and the numbers are still just climbing. Every year we attend a yearly suicide training, and all it does is teach you like the warning signs of suicide, how to deal with it, and how to take those steps to put that person into a safe space. It doesn't happen very often, and usually we don't get that training unless something bad happens. So at that point, it's too late. Like, it's just a very flawed system. When we do go to these classes, they try to keep you involved, and you get prizes like a stress ball or like candy or something for answering questions. But most of the time, it's during a part of our day where soldiers just sign in because it's mandatory, and then they sit there on their phones and they hardly pay attention and just wait for the class to be over, and it's not as effective. It's not as effective as like actually doing something physical to keep these soldiers engaged so they actually remember how to do these steps to save their fellow soldiers' lives. That would just be like a way to make an easier training that is more effective, or possibly have like easier walking clinics. I remember there's a few soldiers, they couldn't go to these walking clinics unless they went and talked to a chaplain first, and that's just not very realistic because not everybody is religious. There should be more outlets to go to these clinics without having to go through these steps that doesn't make sense for everybody. According to the Defense Casualty Analysis System, 6,828 lives have been lost in combat since 2001. But since 2006, nearly 3,400 deaths have been lost due to suicide. That's over half that have been caused due to suicide versus in combat. Like, that's a significant number. And that was written by the Military Times in 2019. Soldiers shouldn't be punished for asking for help. They should have that outlet of where they can go get help. And obviously that's not happening in our systems right now. Soldiers are dying on home soil versus being in actual combat. The Mayo Clinic also put out, most often, suicidal thoughts are the result of feeling like you can't cope when you're faced with what seems like an overwhelming life situation. And that's exactly what these soldiers are feeling. They're feeling like their purpose isn't being heard and that they can't go to anyone for help, so this is like their last resort. In conclusion, mental health just isn't getting taken seriously until something very tragic happens, and it should be a top priority. We're losing almost half the lives we are in actual combat versus enemies. It's the least the military can do after these soldiers have risked their own lives to protect everyone else's back home. I lost a dear friend, and I wish there could have been more resources available to help him and soldiers alike him.